India's rapid rise as a global power has unsettled many superpowers that prefer to maintain their dominance. As the world's fifth-largest economy with a growing military, technological advancements, and strategic alliances, India challenges the status quo in global politics, trade, and security. However, not everyone welcomes this rise. Some nations see India as an economic competitor, a geopolitical rival, or a disruptive force in international affairs. From trade restrictions to diplomatic opposition, several countries employ strategies to slow India's progress. In this video, we explore 10 superpowers that, in different ways, are trying to block or limit India's global ascent. India's rapid rise as a global power has unsettled many superpowers that prefer to maintain their dominance. As the world's fifth-largest economy with a growing military, technological advancements, and strategic alliances, India challenges the status quo in global politics, trade, and security. However, not everyone welcomes this rise. Some nations see India as an economic competitor, a geopolitical rival, or a disruptive force in international affairs. From trade restrictions to diplomatic opposition, several countries employ strategies to slow India's progress. In this video, we explore 10 superpowers that, in different ways, are trying to block or limit India's global ascent. 9. Germany. Germany sees India as both a key trade partner and a rising competitor, particularly in manufacturing, green energy, and technology. While Germany benefits from exporting high-end machinery and automobiles to India, it is wary of India's push for self-reliance in industrial sectors like electric vehicles, pharmaceuticals, and renewable energy. As India strengthens its domestic manufacturing under programs like Make in India, German firms face potential market loss. Germany also hesitates to fully support India's bid for a permanent UN Security Council seat, fearing a shift in global power dynamics. Trade relations between the two countries are strong, but Germany has imposed stringent regulations on Indian exports, particularly in pharmaceuticals and agriculture. Additionally, Germany's economic priorities in the European Union sometimes conflict with India's interests in global trade agreements. While Berlin acknowledges India's growing influence, it prefers to maintain its own industrial and technological dominance, which can sometimes lead to policies that slow India's global ascent. 8. Saudi Arabia. While India and Saudi Arabia share strong trade ties, Riyadh has historically been closer to Pakistan. Saudi Arabia has funded Pakistani defense and economic programs, which indirectly challenge India. Although relations are improving, Saudi influence in global oil politics often does not favor India's growing energy needs. Riyadh also plays a key role in shaping the Islamic world's stance on South Asian politics, sometimes aligning with Pakistan on regional issues. Saudi Arabia's investments in Pakistan's infrastructure and defense sectors further complicate India's regional security. While economic cooperation is expanding, Saudi geopolitical strategies often create obstacles for India's foreign policy. 7. Turkey. Turkey has positioned itself as a critic of India on issues like Kashmir, aligning with Pakistan to challenge India's global standing. Under President Erdogan, Turkey has taken a pro-Islamic stance in foreign policy, often criticizing India's domestic policies towards Muslims. Ankara blocks India's interests in the Islamic world, particularly within the OIC, where it pushes anti-India resolutions. Turkey has also deepened its military and economic ties with Pakistan, providing drones and defense support. Additionally, Turkey's growing relationship with China means it indirectly supports moves that counterbalance India's rise. Despite limited direct competition, Turkey's diplomatic opposition and influence in the Muslim world act as barriers to India's global ambitions. 6. Pakistan. Pakistan has been India's biggest geopolitical rival since their independence in 1947, with tensions centered around Kashmir, cross-border terrorism, and regional dominance. Islamabad actively works to block India's global influence by lobbying against it in international organizations like the UN and OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Pakistan maintains close ties with China, which provides economic and military support to counterbalance India. It also influences Islamic nations, discouraging them from deepening ties with India. Pakistan opposes India's participation in global trade agreements and security alliances. Additionally, Pakistan-backed militant groups have been accused of destabilizing India's border regions. While India has far surpassed Pakistan economically and militarily, Islamabad still plays a disruptive role, aligning with global powers like China and Turkey to limit India's influence in South Asia and beyond. 5. United Kingdom. The UK and India share deep historical ties, but lingering colonial-era tensions remain. Britain sees India as an emerging global power, yet trade negotiations have stalled over visa policies and business regulations. The UK restricts work permits for Indian professionals despite benefiting from Indian investments. Additionally, Britain often sides with Pakistan in South Asian geopolitics, influencing global perceptions of India, especially on Kashmir. While economic cooperation exists, British industries fear India's rise in finance, pharmaceuticals, and technology, which threatens London's dominance. The UK also remains non-committal on India's UN Security Council bid. Many in the British establishment are reluctant to acknowledge India's full geopolitical rise, seeing it as a challenge to the UK's remaining global influence. While relations are improving, Britain's approach is often cautious, ensuring that India's growth does not overshadow its economic and political interests on the world stage. 4. European Union. The EU sees India as a crucial trade partner but imposes strict regulations that limit Indian exports. Despite decades of negotiations, a free trade agreement has yet to be finalized due to disagreements over tariffs, labor rights, and environmental concerns. European companies fear competition from India's growing manufacturing sector, which challenges Germany and France in key industries like automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and electronics. The EU also pressures India on human rights and climate policies, sometimes using them as leverage in trade talks. Additionally, France and Germany hesitate to fully support India's bid for a permanent UN Security Council seat, fearing a shift in global power. The EU prefers a multipolar world but does not want India to surpass European influence in global trade and geopolitics. While economic ties continue to grow, the EU's restrictive policies and diplomatic hesitations make it a barrier to India's global ambitions. 3. Russia. India and Russia share a long-standing friendship, but Moscow's priorities have shifted towards China due to the Ukraine war. Russia has been India's main defense supplier for decades, but India is now diversifying by buying from the US, France, and Israel. This shift threatens Russia's defense industry, which benefits from Indian purchases. Russia also dislikes India's growing ties with the US and participation in groups like the Quad, US, Japan, Australia, and India, seeing it as a Western-leaning move. Energy trade remains strong, but India's pursuit of alternate energy sources reduces its dependence on Russian oil and gas. Moscow also influences Central Asian nations, limiting India's access to this region. While Russia still supports India in many areas, it benefits from keeping India reliant on Russian weapons and technology rather than allowing full independence. If India becomes self-sufficient in defense, Russia loses a key strategic client, making it hesitant to fully support India's rise. 2. China. China views India as a major rival in Asia, and the two countries have fought border clashes in regions like Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, strengthens its global economic influence, but India opposes it, fearing strategic encirclement. Trade between the two nations is significant, but China dominates, with India running a massive trade deficit. India's attempts to reduce dependency on Chinese goods, especially in technology and infrastructure, threaten China's economic interests. Additionally, China blocks India's entry into global groups like the Nuclear Suppliers Group, NSG, and prevents it from securing a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. Beijing also strengthens its ties with Pakistan to counterbalance India. In tech, China is wary of India's growing semiconductor and AI sectors. India's naval expansion in the Indian Ocean also challenges China's maritime dominance, making Beijing a key force trying to limit India's global rise. 1. United States. The US and India maintain a strategic partnership, but Washington has concerns over India's push for self-reliance in defense, technology, and trade. The US sees India as a key counterbalance to China but also as an economic competitor, especially in sectors like IT, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors. While American companies outsource to India, Washington has imposed restrictions on H-1B visas, limiting Indian professionals' opportunities. The U.S. Also pressures India to align with Western policies, such as reducing trade with Russia, which India resists. Trade disputes arise over tariffs, agricultural exports, and intellectual property. India's growing military and space programs challenge U.S. dominance, leading to selective technology sharing. Additionally, India's refusal to fully back Western-led initiatives, such as sanctions on Russia, frustrates Washington. The U.S. supports India in many ways, but its long-term interests lie in maintaining global supremacy, which could mean slowing India's rapid ascent in key industries.